be a results-driven person on everything you do.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. This is Eric LeClaire over at Push Press, and we are bringing another episode of In the Trenches. And this afternoon, I'm super pleased to have a friend come on back. We actually had a chance to get together and jam on a session earlier. And so this is our round two, officially our round two. And the nice thing about getting a chance to meet and, have good discussions and, great dialogue and even good arguments with folks is learning about individual coaches and kind of what made them coaches. What gave them the desire to reach out and help folks. So I've had my eye on Doug for a long time. And what I talked about previously was that it was his charisma and his energy and enthusiasm that he brought to not just what we know, not just to the CrossFit and strength and conditioning model. This young man has got, touches all the way around, from the endurance model, spin model, to the, you name it, personal training model, the corporate side, the micro gym side, the competition side, now the programming for competitor side. Doug, and professionally known as GenerationFit, has really had a chance to reach out and touch a ton of different athletes and clients. So I'm super thrilled to have him on today. Doug, for those of you guys that may not know, GenerationFit, man, welcome.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, man. It's good to see you again. I'm loving that stash you're rocking now. Obviously, plenty of COVID-free time to start playing with facial hair. I just decided to just do it and just keep letting it go. And I'm like 3 seconds away from like Black Ops in Afghanistan right now, man.
1 week from now, I'll flip it. I'll grow the Wolverine chops or the Wolverine one side, and we'll.
I know, man. I feel like some barbaric savage with what I have going on right now, man.
Got to be in a suit and tie for work and all clean, perfect, shaven. Right?
I know. I feel you, man. It's good seeing you, man.
Thanks, man. I'm really happy that you're here. Let our listeners know a little bit about your, let's say, your corporate start or your background. Like, where did fitness come from for you?
Yeah. Totally. Adolescent all the way through, just definitely into sports. Played all kinds of travel ball and fitness became something in high school, to be honest. I started wanting to kind of get more involved in like what the body was doing, and I got involved in what biomechanics really meant and the anatomy and all these things. And let's be real, I went through this era like a lot of people go through now. Unfortunately, it's fake Instagram six-packs, but I went through this era where it's like, I got to have a six-pack. I got to have a six-pack, you know what I mean? And it was just like, I just went nuts on fitness. Dude, I haven't had a Snickers since like the 10th grade, man. Like, seriously. Like, it's just something that dates way back, man. It's not even kidding. Like, I can remember the last time I had a Twix, and that was like in probably 9th grade, like, it's just one of those things, And some would think maybe that was only a couple years ago, but no, man, I'm almost 40 now, and I've just kind of maintained that lifestyle through and through, But I think the biggest thing with me, I date back to after high school. I had like just that directional push. Where do I go? Do I go full military? I was really training to go SEAL team. I was really all into wanting to go to Buds, and I was one of those super freaks that was okay with it, And then I was like, well, maybe if I don't do that, and I just want to keep surfing instead, maybe I'll just get into fitness, and exactly, right? So what happened was I actually started a flooring company when I was 19 years old. It actually put me through school. It was super successful. I had that entrepreneurial kind of like push. I was working hard, long days. But this is the thing. At the end of the day, I would personal train, right? At the end of the day, I would go at 6 o'clock p.m., go to my local Gold's Gym and go personal train clients, right? After my full day of manual labor, basically, to kind of keep my business afloat and successful, Because I got my PT license when I was 18, right?
Wow. Talk about early, yeah.
Early, man. So I got really involved in the corporate side of personal training, like the big box gyms, like the what would be out here would be the 24-hour fitnesses and the LA fitnesses. By me, it was the Bally's and the It was the Gold's Gyms, now considered called in life, the Life Fitness Centers, right?
Right.
And I think the transitional, it was a great asset to my my arsenal of fitness expertise or fitness experience. It went in full circle, but it showed me a lot of things that I didn't like too, right? And I always tell everybody the story of when I'm personal training and I was the GM and I was all this stuff of all these gyms and doing these great things and pulling big numbers. Let's be real, like from a business person to a business person, like numbers matter. It really does, you know?
Down to sales, closing, and quotas.
I mean, it matters. Like fitness matters. We want to get everyone we know to be on a healthier, more a wellness-driven path, but numbers matter at the end of the day, you know? And I was pulling great numbers. But the one thing that I had that the corporate side didn't understand was I had compassion for the clients that were coming in. I had like a heart for what they were going through or not going through, you know? When their goals fail, like I feel like fail. Like, so we are in this together, right? Trying to put together some perpetual motion of health and wellness for each and every individual and soul that we touch, right?
Of course.
When one of them falls off or somebody doesn't make a payment or something like that, the corporate side does what? They just give the middle finger, right? Like, they're like, nope, they're just member number 77651, get a new member, right? And for me, I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, for me, they lost their dad, they lost their mom, they got in an accident, they can't pay their bill, right? There's a lot of things of why the boutique fitness model of personal training, they couldn't afford $800 a month anymore or $500 a month anymore. So now they don't have direction, right? For me, I didn't sit well with that. It sucked. I hated it. I hated that I know these people have heartbeats, they have personalities, they have good, bads, and uglies, they have husbands and wives that cheat on them, they have all these good, bads, and uglies that go on through and through, and I'm feeling all of it.
Of course.
And it doesn't matter.
Yep.
You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, man.
So that's when I started GenerationFit, right? I pulled 4 spin clients, right? Because I've been coaching spin for 12 years, you know? All the way from La Mirada. We're talking about, like, this is deep from Duarte, and we're talking about miles. We're talking about you get caught in traffic. You're in traffic for over an hour because of the 5 interchange, right?
Because of horrible LA traffic, yep.
Yeah, dude. They would drive, no joke, they would drive an hour plus to see me in traffic, right? So I knew I had something that they needed, right? Because when you become that accountability measure for them, right, it's not work anymore, right? It's not work at all anymore.
Oh, dude, for sure. For sure.
Right?
Yep.
So what happened was I started GenFit with like 4 clients. I grew to a point where I was on a wait list, you know? People couldn't even get in. And it was a good feeling, you know, to be able to tell someone from a business side that it's like, you know what, when somebody drops off or somebody's contract ends, then we can take you on. And people were really in this motion of understanding that, you know? And it was great, and it was successful, and it was awesome. You know what I mean?
Supply and demand played to your favor, and they recognize the value that you heard. They recognize the care and the compassion and the authenticity with which you conducted your business. And then obviously, I mean, the results spoke for themselves.
Yeah.
Folks with you were happy. They were, you know, satisfied with the product, and, you know, word got around town that, you know, if you wanted to change your life, you needed to come find you.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It opened up a lot of doors too. And that's why it's like when you become a maven in your craft, and I always talk about being a maven in my craft, it doesn't matter whether I'm doing business development with Allstate, and that's what I do like in the middle of the day now, right? Or whether you're personal training, or whether you're coaching Oli, or whether you're the electrician just trying to make a living. Like when you become a maven in your craft, the goal is to become the expert at that skill, right? That is the goal. Well, that's going to speak volumes all the way around, right? When people get referrals, it's not because they suck, right? When people get referrals, it has nothing to do with sucking, right? That's a, I don't know. Maybe if you get a referral for sucking, that means something else. But for this case, right?
Well,
totally different, right? In this instance, it's you get connected, right? And this is where the community effort starts coming into play, right? You start getting connected into things, and I got connected into City of Hope Cancer Research Hospital, right?
Yep.
Took on clients from there. I got connected with a doctor, Dr. Ray Samoa. One of the best dudes somebody can ever meet. Honestly, I want the world to ever cross paths with Dr. Samoa. He just means so well that he puts everything before himself. And that was including his health and wellness. It was including that. I got a hold of him, turned his life clearly around. Everybody can go to my IG at some point and scroll down a little ways, maybe 3/4, and see a story about Dr. Samoa. But the point of it is that got me connected to wanting to do more with my fitness abilities, more with what I had going on, not just being an athlete, not just trying to do triathlons, and not just doing, but really kind of trying to expand what I'm doing. And it was never really for like this huge money payout. Like, it hasn't been for that, right? It hasn't been for that. But I became the cancer exercise specialist for City of Hope. I got my license and my certification in cancer exercise specialty and started doing studies and research work with the diabetes division with Dr. Samoa at the City of Hope. And that's to another level of changing lives, right? Like, that's for things that people never get to see. You know what I mean?
Talk about behind the scenes and behind the curtain and stuff. You know, if it's not just go to the gym and do your exercise and go home, like, this is a completely different level of now you're stepping in and significantly providing impact.
Right. And that's what I mean by like opening doors and kind of like being on top of like opportunities when they come across, right? Like, without risk, there isn't much reward, you know? And that goes for a lot of things, and it sometimes gets overused. And to be honest, like, without risk, there isn't some kind of reward. But nothing, you know, anything worth having, right, is worth working for. You know, anything worth having is worth working for. And the one thing that I always like teach in my classes or coach a certain way, or in my spin class, like, what's funny is scroll through comments. People will say these certain things because I have certain things that I spit out to them to keep them motivated, right? And the one thing is, you know, it's not
Doug sound bites in the middle of a workout.
Dude, I tell you what, man, like, they're everywhere. They used to call them freshisms because everybody calls me Dougie Fresh or just Fresh, right? So I've coined that probably since I was 6 years old. I've always been fresh. And to this day, there's still people that don't even know my first name. They just call me Fresh, like, not even kidding, right? So, like, I take it. I run with it, right? But they call them freshisms, right? And it's one of those things where it just sticks with you and it like reminds you. And when somebody's doing a marathon, they're like, all I kept thinking was what you were saying, and all I kept thinking is what you were saying, right?
Dude,
and
you mastered communication and how to connect. You know, I mean, if you think about that, the fact that you're inside someone else's head when they're in the marathon, you win, right? You got that.
Exactly, dude. No, you're 100% right, man. 100% right. But it's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be worth it, right? And I tend to live that for myself and teach it, right? I like to at least like, you know, walk the walk and not just talk the talk, right? You know,
because we know there are coaches out there that it's completely the opposite. Completely the opposite. They fake since day one, and there's no care, there's no compassion, there's no reality, there's connect. It's just about the money and the number and the churn and burn through the clients, man. Nothing makes my heart more sick than seeing that.
Authenticity, right?
Huge.
Like, authenticity. You know, like, you would never want to be friends with somebody who kind of sucks. Like, you would never want to be friends with that person, right? Like that doesn't bring any value to your life, right?
No
joy. No joy. The goal is value. The goal is at the end of that session or the end of that class or the end of what you're doing, them to go, that was the hardest thing I've ever done, but thank you so much. And they want to give you a sweaty hug and you're like, oh God, why'd you do that? But all right.
5 sweaty hugs later, you're like, dude, I got to go change my shirt.
No, like, right? You know what I mean? Like, there's something just very satisfying about it. I my whole life I've been a very results driven person, and hopefully your viewers can like respond to the idea of compartmentalizing results, right? And I don't mean a 6-pack, right? And I don't mean like, you know, I want bigger arms or anything like that. Like, what I mean is be a results driven person on everything you do, right? If every minimum wage job or any wage job ever was paid, right, in a way, right, based upon someone's performance, we would be the most efficient group of people ever, right?
Dude, I talk to the coaches, our interns and coaches about that all the time. Yep.
Right? Like, you don't have to be an entrepreneur to put forth some sort of worth or some sort of value to what you're doing, right?
Right.
And it doesn't matter whether you're popping phones and like, you know, telemarketing. You know, everybody needs to do something. I get it, right? It doesn't matter whether you're at the gas station, you're at the convenience store, ringing people up. Like, if every single job, right, was performance-based somehow, we would be more efficient. We would be happier souls. You know what I mean? Because we would have a sense of purpose that a lot of people don't feel like they have right now.
Dude, we're surrounded by zombies.
Yes.
Kind of like floating through that. How did you, let's back into that real quick. How did you dig in and help work the discipline angle with your clients to help them earn their results? So like if someone in our audience is a new coach, younger coach, maybe wants to break out into personal training for the first time, but they've always worked for someone else. Like they've worked in a CrossFit gym or they worked in a weightlifting gym, but now they want to start working one-on-one. How did you hold your clients accountable? How did you inspire them? Walk me kind of through those things.
Yeah, sure. I base everything on a principle structure, and I like I said before, is everything I do in my life, right, for myself, it's easiest. It's almost cheating. If it works in my life, it's going to work in someone else's life, right? And maybe they tweak it in their own way. But if I can put forth the effort that I put forth in my life to them, and they can emulate that approach, there's a good chance they're going to be on a path, right? Because,
yeah,
right, you know, right? So I always tell somebody from the start, I can push you, but I can't pull you, right? So if one thing that in your initial orientation, you're trying to figure out if they have, you know, any kind of ailments, if they have any knee issues, they have any injuries, and you're going through your orientation. You're like, awesome, you know, do you drink a lot of soda? You're going through your orientation, all your qualifying questions to what they're going to be and what they're going to do, right? They love you, they're awesome, they're stoked, right? A great thing to put forth is letting them know what you expect from them. The expectation out in front doesn't surprise them later. You can't just wake up one day, right? You can't just wake up one day, you see them after a month and be like, all right, you've been pressing 50s, you're up to 100 now. I don't care what you say, you just got to do it. It doesn't matter. That's what no. The expectation is get to the hundreds. The expectation is get your conditioning better. The expectation is that. But if they don't know that ahead of time, there's no way for them to really know that, right?
Did you struggle with that when you kind of got into the CrossFit world where it was constantly varied, functional movements, high intensity, but because the goals were changing all the time, clients came back frustrated. They're like, my deadlift is better, but is down, or I'm stronger, but I'm heavier on the scale, or I'm faster, and they were like misaligned with themselves and programming.
Sure. I definitely faced different things when it came to CrossFit, right? I definitely did. And why it was different to me was because when it came to CrossFit, because we were constantly varying everything, and because we had these movements that gymnasts have been doing for 20 years, and they expect everybody to go right into it. They expect people to learn these like 2-joint movements. Let's be honest. That's what CrossFit is. It's not your single joint curls, right? Everything is a 2-joint movement. It's a squat and a press, right? It's a clean and a jerk, right? There's so many things, right? It's a deadlift into a hang clean into a jerk, right? So you're putting together complexes, right? And we love those complexes because they do vary the way our conditioning gets in, our output gets put forth, right?
Right.
But the way you have to focus on those type of clients that are discouraged by those things is reminding them of where they are compared to where you are, right?
Right.
It's a constant reminder. I think I probably get more than anyone. Well, I'm never going to be like you. That's what, it's always what's said. Well, I'm never going to be like you. And it's like, I don't want you to be like me. I want you to be like you, right?
Not the goal, right? No.
I don't expect you to be like me, right? Just like I don't expect myself to be like Rich Froning, right? It would be really cool. Right? I mean, you know, like it would be cool to do Isabel with 225, you know, like sounds awesome.
95 seconds, right?
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, it's a constant reminder. You have to constantly remind them to you do you, and eventually you'll get here, right? But there's timeline. It's not going to happen overnight, right? Like you've been out of shape for 10 years. You can't expect to be in shape in a year, right? You can't expect it. You have to have better expectations. And if those things aren't laid out in the beginning of their orientation, I always do a graph where I put a little circle and I point a long line with an arrow on a piece of paper or on a whiteboard. I'm very whiteboard. I'm like drawing. I'm like doing all kinds of stuff. I'm like it's my thing, right? But if I put this graph and I put it there and I put 0, 3, 6, 9, right? I'm showing them like it's a 12-month program. That's where we're starting. We're going to be here in 3 months. We're going to be here in 6 months. But we're evaluating every month where we are so we know where to get to, right?
Right.
Look at the 12th month. And if you think that you're 100 pounds up, you saw the biggest loser, and you're going to lose it all in 2 months, like that's not realistic. Get it out of your head. You're going to make life changes. You're going to be awesome for it. You're going to do big things with your life. You're going to have people that want to follow you now. All these things. But don't think it's going to happen in a month. Be realistic with yourself, and you'll have a much happier and sustainable time, right?
I would say that's probably one of the hardest things is to kind of help recalibrate clients' heads because they want it now. They're putting money on the table. They're coming to a professional and they see all the other work that's been done. And they're like, me, I want this, I want that, I want to change. And I want it in 28 days because the other gym around the corner is selling a 28-day challenge or a 28-day whatever. And you sit back and you're just like, okay, let's start from the beginning.
Totally.
Slow it down. Yeah.
Let's be honest. Like, there's a million different gym models out there. Everybody's trying to do different things. I'm all about movement and wellness, right? As long as you're moving, I'm a happier person, right? Like, genuinely, I'm a happier person. Like, people know me, my wife. I mean, everybody knows me. Like, if I don't move, I start, like, freaking out a little bit. I'm going to be honest. Like, it's not good for me, you know, like whether it's just grabbing some discs, taking her and my daughter to disc golf and we just go throw down some disc golf. It doesn't matter. You know, if I'm always wanting to move, it doesn't mean I have to go move, you know, 250 overhead and do all kinds of craziness. I just need to be moving though, right? Like that's the goal is movement, right?
Let's go the opposite direction real quick. What kind of insight can you provide having to talk clients off the ledge of like that? Because I know you work with a lot of competitors or you work with a lot of individuals who want to be competitive. How do you help solve for the obsessive compulsive, I got to get it in, I got to do doubles and I got to train triples on the weekend, and you know the dysfunction of go time? Sure.
Going back real quick to pushing versus pulling, right? Because I still do the same thing. When I'm orientation with somebody, I talk about like, I'll push you through this program. I'll push you through what we're doing, but I'm never going to pull you, right? If I took 60 clients and I had to pull all of them to do better and pull all of them to do what, it's never going to add up. I would rather always take the guy who's doing 3 a days, or the girl who's doing 3 a days, who, you know what, I go home, I get done with you, and I go knock out another 250 push-ups, right? And I'm like, word, right? I would rather calm them and tame them, right? Versus having to pull anyone through a program, right? Right? It's like, you got to kind of want it. You got to kind of want to do what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't put that on the coach. It's not fair to the coach. The coach is making $20 an hour. Like, that's not fair to take 20 people in a room and putting all your stress on them to try to pull you through something. You know what I'm saying? That's not fair, right? But pushing them, yeah. And you don't have to be a cheerleader, but pushing them, right? Like, push them to a limit, right? Get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? Push them. I don't want to go upside down. We get you upside down. Success. Check. Right? I don't want to put that over my head. I've never put 100 pounds over my head. Check. We did it, right? Like, we push people, right? So going to fast forward to the guy or the girl who is just all time go, right? They understand what movement is. They understand what it makes them, how that makes them feel, the chemicals that get released in the brain, why they move like that. They understand all these things. And maybe they have an ultimate goal. Maybe they want to be a games athlete, or maybe they want to be the best triathlete, or maybe they want to do some kind of ruck run craziness, or some kind of ultra something. Who knows, right? But getting to know that person and that individual is the only way of understanding that. And if they're, I work with like high profile, like surgeon type nurses and stuff, right? And their entire shift is someone dying or living, and that's their whole shift. Like, their whole shift.
Intense.
Like, the entire shift. 3 hours of surgery, they died. 3 hours of surgery, they live. That's their whole shift. It almost gives me a little chills, right? Because now with COVID, they're wrapped up to a level where they're like way down. They're a mess, right? They're sweating for 3 hours. They're passing out at the end of their shifts, literally passing out in the break rooms because they're just overworked in that way. But it's also, if she didn't move how she does with me to the level that she does with me, she would never be here. Right?
Makes sense.
Like, you know as well as me, military background, PTSD is real. These things are real. PTSD amongst EMTs, ALS, BLS, PM, any kind of life support, firefighter, everything. Just because they're considered heroes doesn't mean they don't have their own battles outside of that uniform, or outside of that shirt, or outside of that, right?
For sure.
Without proper wellness, sleep, function, movement, right, stabilization, support, without all these things, they will lose it. Like, it's almost impossible. You cannot sustain any kind of proper psyche with that much trauma every day of your life. It's impossible. Like, there's no way it can happen. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
Right?
Yeah. Agreed.
So you got to get to know the person that's going hard, right? Not just, man, that guy's crazy. I can't believe it. Oh man, he's nuts. He's just killing it, right? He always kills it. No, well, I'm training to be a games athlete. So then what do? I'm like, awesome, right? Do you have a program set in place, or are you just doing classes? Because if you're training to be a games athlete, you can't just do classes. That's not the level that you need to be at. What are we focusing on, right? What are your faults? What are you not good at? Yeah, I don't have a lot of leg strength. Okay, so we need to focus more and channel 60 to 70% of your energy into gaining leg strength, because we know you got the conditioning already. We know you could run a sub 5:30 mile. We know you could do, you know what I mean? Like, it's más importante. It's my SoCal right there. What you got, right? To get to know the person, get to know each athlete, right? You don't have to be best friends with them, but get to know them, right? You get to know them, it'll go so much further. And they'll appreciate you more for it, right? They'll appreciate you more for it. And who knows, from a business level, maybe they sit there and they jump on board with wanting to get different kind of training, right? Oh, I need to get more Oli training because I suck at it. Okay, boom. My technique sucks. Maybe I'll do 6 months of Oli because my technique is horrible. And I'll start applying it to my own program after. But maybe your business grows through giving an F about what they're actually doing and not just looking at them as member number 70615. You know what I mean?
That's excellent. That's excellent.
You know what I mean?
If you had were there any clients that had like characteristics that you struggled working with?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest thing that it's the hardest to overcome is the one that wants results tomorrow. It's impossible to supply that, right? It's impossible to give that to them. It's impossible, without surgery, right? It's impossible to give that to the need that they have, right? Because they have needs, right? Their need is, tell me this is going to happen tomorrow. Tell me this is going to happen tomorrow, to a point of tears. I mean, I right on the top of my head, I won't call out names, but I know at least 10 right now that to tears, 3 times a week, to tears, right? I would literally have to coach them through understanding what the reality of it is, right? The best perspective I have always is, how long have you been out of shape? It's like my first question. Like 10 years. Well, you can't expect it, right? It's my first perspective. I'm like, you've been sitting on a couch, eating Funyuns, doing your thing, right? For 10 years. Like, you're finally moving. Like, start enjoying the process. You're finally moving. Start enjoying the process. Whether you're 40, 50, 20, 15, 30, it doesn't matter, right? Make some changes. A lot of people my whole life were always like, man, I don't want to invite him over because maybe I'll eat some pizza or something, right? And it's like, no, dude, it's all good. The thing is like, in the gym, that's my house, right? Like, this is where you're kind of like not under my control, but this is where you're under my direction, right? This is my house. This is what I'm doing with you. Outside of that, you make your own decisions. Just know when we get back to the gym, right?
Yeah,
like you're gonna change again.
Yeah, I love it.
You know what I mean?
On the flip side of struggling clients, who have you appreciated working with from maybe a coach's perspective, maybe a brand ambassador's perspective? Have there been like really good relationships you've been able to cultivate working with the vast amount of people that you've had a chance to work with?
Yeah, I just to touch on CrossFit for a minute. I go back to functional training. I had my bouts of bodybuilding, you know what I mean? Where, yeah, I think it's great. I think we all need to move our bodies in those ways. I think it's necessary for accessory. It's necessary for muscle growth. It is necessary to flip the body into doing something that it's not comfortable with and doing. But I was never into painting myself orange. And if I want to wear a banana hammock, I'm just going to rock a banana hammock. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to get...
It's going to be red, I guarantee it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know me. So I went through that phase, and I went through a functional phase, after sports or through sports, and then got into triathlons and all these things. And, I already had GenFit going. Like, I've been coaching spin for 12 years. My spin class was off the charts. Like, unfortunately, COVID just totally gave the F and like the middle finger to the studio. Rest in the peace. It sucks. I hate that we lost the key of fitness for so many people, because I've been there for probably 5-6 years. The studio was awesome. It was in Pico Rivera, and it was strictly a spin studio, and the owner was an amazing human that did amazing things that really like meant well for every single member that ever walked through there. And COVID kind of like kicked it in the pants. And just like we'll see, like we talked about, we got 40+%, I swear, is going to be closed, because of this COVID. Yes,
You and I both, we live right around the corner from each other, so we know of the gyms that are shutting down or have shut down, are shutting down, and I mean for good. And it's not just in the CrossFit scene, it's micro gyms, spin studios, you name it, rowing studios, personal training studios, man. And it's not just the business loses and the coach loses, it's hundreds of clients are now displaced. They had a home, they had someone like you that cared about them, that, provided guidance and oversight, that they were excited after that long 8-10 hour shift. They were like, I'm still going to Doug. Now, nothing.
Yeah. No, totally. And it's like we're seeing it more and more every day. But going back to it is, I didn't know what CrossFit was. I was a trainer, a business owner, a entrepreneur that didn't want to be competed with. So CrossFit came about, and it became bigger and bigger and bigger. And I had all my clients asking me what it's all about. And although CrossFit gets a little bit of a bad rap for being more than a 24-hour fitness membership, because on the surface, again, perspective is everything, right? Two ways of looking at something. On the surface, it's way expensive compared to a $24.99 membership. But 90% of people that go into a 24-hour fitness go for 3 weeks and leave. Why? Because they have zero direction. They have no clue what they're doing. They literally look at a bunch of people lifting and doing things that they don't know how to do, and they walk away and they say, you know what? Whatever, I'm tied into this contract. I could spare $25, right? When a CrossFit that's run properly, like yours, you know what I mean, right? What do? You provide the value. You provide why they're there and what they're doing. Every class, coach, every right?
Yeah.
Right? Man. So I didn't know what CrossFit was. It was just a threat to me. CrossFit was a threat. It was like, man, people are asking me about this, and I'm going to give the ignorant answer. Like, the real ignorant answer is get hurt. That's the most ignorant answer in the world, but it was a threat to me. So I'm going to try to push it away, right?
Right.
Because I was ignorant. I didn't know. I was not understanding what it was, right? I thought my fitness was fitness, right? So one of my closest buds, right, one of my closest friends, Damon Stewart, owned Wasatch CrossFit in Utah. Wasatch was very early on, as you know, like I think the 100th CrossFit to open or something near there, right?
Probably even sooner than that, I bet.
Yeah. He was one of those guys that, wrapped up duct tape on a ball, and like that was his slam ball, and he had kettlebells, and he was in his garage, and then he all of a sudden it turned into this CrossFit thing, and he grew it to be this huge thing. And Wasatch was awesome, but at the same time, I didn't know anything about CrossFit. I just knew he was doing it, right? And he invited me out for a certification. And just a quick little side note is that I got my level 1 certification in CrossFit before I ever took my first CrossFit class. I never even dropped into a CrossFit. I never went, none of it. I literally got my L1 first. And it wasn't that I drank the juice, as a lot of people might say, but it defined fitness for me. And that's what it was. Because when I came from an athletic background.
Yeah,
right? Coming from an athletic background, being an athlete, feeling like I've tested myself, I've done triathlons, I've done these things, I did a triathlon a year before I started CrossFitting, right? And I top 20'd or something like that, which is pretty decent. You know what I mean? When you look at those things, right? It's pretty decent. I was biking my ass off. I was running my ass off, and I was like swimming, it was just like really hyper-focused training into these 3 things, right? I do my CrossFit L1. It defines fitness for me. The Webster Dictionary, the definition of fitness in the Webster Dictionary is what? To be fit. Doesn't define fitness. CrossFit defines fitness. Constantly varied, right? Working with task and time, working with weight and gymnastics. Like, it defines fitness. The fact that you can measure every workout somehow, like, it's impossible for you not to be able to define yourself then, right?
Right, correct.
If I do this particular workout in 8 minutes and 26 seconds, who cares about everyone else? Yeah, you're competing with a class sometimes. But if I go do that workout again and I do it in 8 minutes and 6 seconds, well, it's not even that I PR'd. It's just that I got more fit, and it defined it. It showed it to me. It measured it, right? Like, it measures fitness. And that's why the CrossFit model was exactly what I needed, right? So I drank that juice, and I was all in, and I was super hyper-focused and making it happen and making it work. I trained CrossFit for a year. I already had some Olympic movements down that I knew, like, how to clean and things like that, but I definitely honed them in, and I got good at them. The next year, I did the same exact triathlon and top 5'd, right? I got 4th, right? This is against people whose whole life trained for a triathlon. You know what I mean? But this is
Right.
the cool part. I only rode the bike for about 2 weeks before that comp, right? I only swam about 2 weeks before.
I have heard these stories hundreds of times over where folks, particularly in the community or even in the ultra community, they're nervous about leaving their sport to come in to do a little bit of work structurally to get stronger, you know, more aerobically fit, you know, whatever it is. And then they're like, but I haven't run, I haven't biked, I haven't been back out on the water. And they go back out and they're, you know, minutes, sometimes chunks of time ahead of not only their peers, but even for some of their best times. So that was, I love it, man. I love hearing the transference of success all the way around.
Dude, it made such a difference, bro. Like it changed my life. And then CrossFit changed my life because what you don't get from a Globo gym, you get from a CrossFit community, right? Yep. Communities have a lot of personalities, so you have a lot of good, bads, and uglies that come with it, right? You need to pick who you want to be around. You need to be, right? You know how it is. You need to pick who you want to be around. You need to, you know, like I would just like embed into my kid's head, right? You just got to keep doing it of letting them know, like, hang around the best, right? Be around the people that are making something happen, right? Right? Like if you're at work, you're working at freaking Taco Bell, but you don't hang out with the person that's hanging out in the back. You hang out with the person that's running that line and crushing it, because that's going to get you a lot further somehow than somewhere else. Same with being an athlete, or same with being in a gym, right? Like it provides all those entities, right? It's your choice of how you want to pursue that level. And sometimes, you know, it's the wrong direction. Sometimes you get in the wrong space, man. You know,
dude, wrong personalities, wrong characters. Yeah. Man, I just took a look back at some of the old dates, and I would challenge my coaches always to think about the rotations of clients were almost always on a 4-year cycle. And it was these energies and enthusiasms and personalities until about the 4th year. And we saw this, and had I still been in the brick and mortar location today, we'd be turning on into the 15th or 16th year. So we had 4 of these 4-year cycles that have rotated through. And some of those 4-year rotations were amazing, like highest of highs, high energy, enthusiasm, positivity, excellent culture, excellent community. And then sometimes in that rotation, you're like, something's not going right. The personalities, the relationships, the characters, the community, like, and then it's like, again, you stay in it long enough and you get to see some good things. Like you said, some good, bad, and uglies.
Yeah, dude. At the end of the day, I feel like when I was deep into my CrossFit career, say, right, and I was fully engulfed, brought my business in with CrossFit and all these things, you know, I got to learn a lot on some levels, and on those levels, it put me in the direction where I am today.
Right.
You got to deal with the fallout to get stronger sometimes, you know, and you know my story, and you know a lot of where I've come from and a lot of where I've been and where I am now due to certain circumstances. And it's all about the resilience, you know what I mean? Like it's all about the resilience. It's not over just because this chapter is kind of closed over here, right? It opens so much more, you know what I mean? And a lot of times that kind of stuff has been holding you back, right? And it's like the relief, right, allows you to propel in another way. It allows you to be stronger in another way. It allows you to shine differently, right? Exactly, right? Exactly, you know? Because I was firsthand in that, right? And like I said, you know my story better than most, or if anyone, right? And you know exactly what it's like to overcome the obstacles that are within some of these things with management or whatever the case might be. You know what I mean?
Management, relationships, all of it. Yep, all of it.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, make sure you like our channel, subscribe, and check out our other videos right here.